Do you find yourself using the same linking words over and over again? No more. In this video, I'm going to teach you 55 advanced English linking words and phrases that will help your English skyrocket. And this lesson comes with a free PDF. Get it through the link in the description below. Starting with alternatives to coordinators. Let's remember the basics before looking at these advanced alternatives. The basics are for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. These are the 7 coordinating conjunctions, and these are used to join equal grammatical structures such as clauses or nouns. If you want to join clauses, then you'll need to use these. But when you're joining nouns, there are lots of alternatives. For example, along with. He started work along with his colleague. Along with introduces an accompanying item, so it's similar to and in its meaning. He started work and his colleague started work. He started work along with his colleague. Also combined with. Combined with is used for 2 things that act as one. They used skill combined with effort to complete the work. So there was skill, there was effort, put them together and you have the ability to complete the work. We also could use together with. Together with links 2 items that occur concurrently. In other words, at the same time. For instance, the manager called me together with my colleague to a meeting. Who was called to the meeting? Me and my colleague. Me together with my colleague. And in addition to introduces an extra item. So it's like and, but actually something more because it's adding extra detail. We had new tools in addition to the ones we already had. Now we could have said we had new tools and the ones we already had, but this tells us that the new tools are an extra. So it adds a little bit of extra meaning here. Next, let's look at subordinators of time. Basic subordinators of time include before, after, and when. And let's look at an example of how we could use when as a subordinator. The cloud started clapping when the music stopped. Now, subordinators are a little different to coordinators. With a subordinator, you have 2 clauses. You have a main clause and then the subordinate clause. The subordinate clause gives extra information which is dependent upon the main clause. The main clause could exist as a sentence on its own. The subordinating clause could not. So it's different to coordinators which join 2 elements that are equal together. And the subordinator always goes at the beginning of the subordinating clause. So here, when the music stopped, when is the subordinator, and the subordinating clause is when the music stopped. Now these are fairly basic subordinators of time. More advanced subordinators of time include just as. For instance, the cloud started clapping just as the music stopped. Just as introduces something at exactly the same time. As long as can mean for a certain length of time. We promised to keep on playing as long as the people wanted. Or you could say for as long as the people wanted. As soon as is different to as long as. As soon as gives the moment when something else can happen. The band will start playing as soon as the pianist arrives. So when the pianist arrives, this is the moment that the other thing can happen, that the band can start playing. The moment can mean immediately when. The music started the moment that the lights came on. Exactly then. So it's linking the time to the main clause. The music started as the main clause and the phrase after the clause after the moment introduces the time that the main clause happened. And at the time that, well, that's similar to the moment, but it's not quite as precise here. Look at the example. Most people were home at the time that the band was playing. Now, here at the time that the band was playing, it's not necessarily one specific moment, it's a general period of time. So this focuses on the general period of time, not the specific moment in the way that the moment would. Next, let's look at subordinators of place. Basic ones are where, wherever, or everywhere. But let's make it more advanced. In the location where means the precise place of the next clause. For instance, I'll meet you in the location where the map indicates. So similar to simply saying where, but in the location puts more emphasis on that precise point. In the vicinity of is followed by a noun or noun phrase, and it means near this place. I expect it is in the vicinity of the campsite. At the point where is similar to in the location, but even more precise than that. At the point where the river meets the sea, there are strong currents. So not around the place, not near the place, but exactly on the place. At the point is exactly on the place. And in whichever place is a more formal alternative for phrases or words such as anywhere. There's lots to see in whichever place you arrive. So it means anywhere, but more formal than that. One more subordinator of place. At wherever means in any of places of this type. Let's look at the example. Feel free to stop for a rest at wherever you find a bench. So there might be many benches that you could find, but at wherever means when you find a bench, then at that place, do the thing in the main clause. Feel free to stop for a rest. Let's move on to subordinators of manner. And subordinators of manner include as and like, but an advanced subordinator of manner could be in the way that. And in the way that introduces the manner of the main clause activity. The cafe was decorated in the way that the customers requested. Let's pull this apart into two bits. The cafe was decorated. That's the main clause. That could exist on its own. But we add this subordinate clause to tell us more about the way it happened, the manner it happened. How was it decorated? In this particular way, in the way that the customers requested. And often with the subordinators of manner, where you see the word way, it could be replaced with manner. It could even be replaced with the word fashion, in the way that, in the manner that, in the fashion that. However, is a surprising one here because we expect this to appear with links of contrast, but it can actually be used as a subordinator of manner. And here, however, can mean no matter which way. We tried every way and all of them had the same result. Look at the example. They couldn't serve everyone on time, however hard they tried. So here, however, doesn't mean a contrast. Here, however, means no matter which way. They tried this way, they tried that way, they tried another way. None of them worked. However hard they tried. However can optionally be followed by an adverb. It could have been however they tried, but you can often say however hard they tried, however much they tried, or another similar adverb. We could also say in whatever way. And this means it doesn't matter which way. We'll make sure everyone gets a seat in whatever way we can. We'll do everything. It doesn't matter what we have to do. We will make this happen. We'll make sure the thing in the first clause happens. And in such a way. In such a way means a particular way to enable an action of this type. So again, thinking about our coffee shop or our cafe, the owners might say this: we've organised the chairs in such a way that you can sit together. So we have organised it in a particular way, in such a way, which enables the following to be successful. Another type of subordinator is a subordinator of distance. We often use as followed by an adverb and as to create subordinators of distance, such as far as, but other ways of doing it include to the point where or to the point that. Now, to the point where or that introduces the direction and the destination. She got to the point where the children's books were kept. So what does that mean? She went in this direction and she arrived at the destination she planned. She got to the point where. We could have said she got to the point that. That and where can often be used interchangeably, but that can also be a subject where cannot be a subject. At the point where or at the point that is slightly different to the point. To the point meant we go somewhere and we reach a place. At the point focuses on that exact place. We stopped searching at the point where the books ended. To the extent that it's a little bit more abstract. It gives us this idea of distance, but in our minds, in a thinking sense. It refers to distance in more of an abstract sense. For example, we're thinking how much distance is there, not necessarily from here to another place, but from here to another concept, or here to another number. Let's go back to our books theme for this subordinator. The library was successful to the extent that satisfaction was 100%. So here there was a length of distance in terms of the satisfaction rating, from one rating to another. And to the extent means this much, this far. Now let's go on to subordinators of frequency. We're probably familiar with words such as whenever or as often. But other subordinators of frequency include each time, which introduces the individual times something happens. Each time the cockerel crowed, the other chickens looked up. So crowed is when the cockerel sings its song, and then all the other chickens looked at the cockerel being the male chicken. Now, every time is similar. The slight difference between each time and every time is that every time focuses on all the times something happens. So the chickens thought every time food was thrown into their barn. In a sense, the meaning is really the same. It's simply that our attention is drawn with each to individual occurrences, which cover all occurrences, but every draws our attention to just all of them without thinking about them individually. But they tend to have a similar effect on the listener or the reader. At any time that means all times are possible. Come to my farm and see my chickens at any time that you want. This could be shortened to simply any time, informally. Come to my farm and see my chickens anytime you want. And in the instance that. In the instance that means in one specific time, but which could recur. So let's look at the example to understand this more. In the instance that a chicken sits on her eggs, do not disturb her. So if you see this once, if you see a chicken sitting on her eggs once, do not disturb her. But the next time and the next time and the next time, also do not disturb her. It's something we expect to be repeated, and in the instance that focuses on each of these individual occurrences. If you see this, do this, and the same again anytime you see this. Now for subordinators of reason. Words such as and because and since are good for introducing reasons in a subordinating clause. But maybe you want more than just that. Well, perhaps try some of these alternatives. In that In that introduces the reason for a suggestion. It was an excellent sofa in that it was good for relaxing on. So in that here kind of justifies the point that we made in the main clause. It was an excellent sofa, and now I'm going to give an example or explain the reason why I think that it was an excellent sofa in that it was good for relaxing on. Seeing that. Seeing that shows that an action has been influenced by another. Seeing that no one was sitting on the sofa, I decided to sit there myself. On account of is followed by a noun, and it's got a similar meaning to because of, but when you use on account of, there's some extra consideration that you've put into it. Don't get up on account of my needs. So don't think about what I need too much. Don't get up just because you're thinking about what I need. Don't consider it in that way. Often on account of is used in a more formal sense, perhaps when presenting evidence or writing a report. So it's not particularly informal, but it can be used in any sense if it's the right thing to use. And in the light of, similar to on account of, it's a bit more formal, used in report writing, used perhaps when presenting evidence in a court situation. In the light of represents a decision based upon something recent. I need to sit down in the light of the bad news I've just heard. So bad news has come to me recently. So in the light of that, I do something else. I need to sit down. In the light of introduces the reason for sitting down here. Subordinators of purpose include so that or in order that. To be more advanced, you could say for the purpose of, which introduces why something is done. I'm wearing this suit for the purpose of looking smart. That's why I did it. In the hope means something is done intending this outcome. I looked at older clothes in the hope of finding a bargain. So here I have some sort of desire for the future, some sort of prediction. The main clause is I looked at the older clothes, and I give my purpose for that. Well, it's because I have this intention, this desire, this hope, this foresight, perhaps, in the hope. In the hope of goes with a noun. You could say in the hope that to go with a clause afterwards. With the intention of introduces the planned effect of an action. They entered the shop with the intention of buying a new outfit, and with a view to introduces a future plan based on the main clause. She bought a dress with a view to wearing it at the wedding. So she did this on one day, and the purpose was for another day in the future. Next, subordinators of result, which can include phrases with so and such. It was such a great day that everyone stayed to the end. So such a followed by a noun, and that can introduce a result. So with an adjective, and that can also introduce a clause, which is a subordinated clause. But there are other ways too, for example, with the consequence that, which presents the direct result of a situation. Now we've got some snow symbols on the screen, so we're going to focus on being cold and snowy. The wind changed direction with the consequence that it got cold. So that's the direct result of the wind changing direction. Resulting in, followed by a noun, indicates the final outcome. The snow fell at night, resulting in all of the roads being blocked. And leading to, with a noun, introduces the effect of the main clause. So demand for energy was high, leading to power shortages. Similar to resulting in, but leading to has more a cause-effect relationship. One thing happens, this causes the next, leading to the next. and which in turn introduces a result coming as a natural sequence. Many people bought new coats, which in turn boosted the economy. There's that sense of sequence. First of all, people bought things. Next, the economy improved. Subordinators can come with adjective clauses, often called relative clauses. Now, we're used to words such as which, who, whom, any relative pronoun, when, where, and so on. But we can do something else with some of these relative pronouns as follows. In which or in whom. So we use a preposition before the word which when it's a thing or an item, or whom when it's just talking about a person in the main clause. Look at the example for in which. London is a city in which you can easily get lost. So this introduces the location or situation of something. Where can you easily get lost? In London. So in which creates the subordinator that links the information to what came before. Similarly, at which. At which goes with the place where something occurs. Meet me in the nearest place at which the bus stops. So at is more specific. It's pointing at a place. In looks at a place more generally. At looks at a specific location. For which is an alternative to the structure which followed by the clause followed by for. For being a reason word. So for which is like the reason which. London buses are a form of transport for which we are grateful. We could have said which we are grateful for. But no matter which way you say it, for which means the reason which. London buses are a form of transport. We are grateful for this reason. And of which or of whom. And these link the main noun to the information after. The royal family, of which many people travel to see, live here. Now, because it's a family, we could also have said of whom, because we're talking about people. Now we're going to move on to conjunctive adverbs. These are a little bit different to subordinators. Subordinators and coordinators join two clauses together, but conjunctive adverbs, they don't join the sentences together, they keep sentences separate, but create a connection from one sentence to another, usually the sentence before. Now, when we're talking about conjunctive adverbs for similarity, you may have used also or furthermore, but we can also use in a similar manner, and this indicates similarity to the previous idea. The beach is full in July, sentence 1. In a similar manner, so is the next beach. So here, in a similar manner, doesn't join the first sentence to the second sentence, but what it does is it creates a connection between the two. The second sentence is linked to the first sentence in the way described by the conjunctive adverb phrase here, in a similar manner. Also in the same vein, which means a similar style or manner to the previous. The sunbeds are red. In the same vein, the cafes are painted red too. So there's some connection in terms of style here. Here the theme is red, being the similarity between both parts. Equally is also used as a conjunctive adverb of similarity. It introduces a point of the same value as the previous. People from Germany come here, full stop, equally, comma, the Spanish travel here. So there's a similarity between what the Germans and the Spanish do. And by the same token. This means the same way or reason. Look at the example here related to holidays again. The hotels are full. By the same token, the restaurants are all booked. Now conjunctive adverbs of contrast. However, is perhaps the most used conjunctive adverb of contrast. If you want to show that one sentence is going in a different direction to the sentence before, however, is commonly used. And it's okay to use it a lot, but you might want some alternatives sometimes. Similarly, although is used a lot. But there are other ways that we can express the same thing in different words. For instance, by contrast. By contrast introduces an idea taking a different direction. The uncle's family is rich. By contrast, their aunt's family is poor. So the second idea is in a different direction to the first. The first one, rich. The second, poor. Conversely introduces something opposite. We always eat together. Conversely, the neighbours eat separately. Two opposite things. And on the flip side is a really useful phrase to learn in fluent speech. It does tend to be quite informal, so that you know not to use it formally. And this means an alternative idea or point of view. I enjoy seeing my family. On the flip side, I like some time on my own. So if you're discussing something, weighing up two ideas, on the flip side can move from one set of ideas to the other side of ideas. Okay, conjunctive adverbs of result, therefore and as a result are the more basic ones, but we can also use hence, which is a more formal version of therefore. Too many cars are on the road, hence travel times have increased. Or accordingly, which introduces a natural or obvious consequence of something. Taxis are very cheap in this city. Accordingly, many people use them. So it's a natural consequence of the taxis being cheap. It's saying a little bit more than just the result. It's saying that this is obviously going to be the result, accordingly. Correspondingly introduces a related result. Road improvements were made correspondingly, traffic improved. There was a relationship between the two parts leading to that particular result. And on that account means an occurrence for the reason mentioned. Buses were on strike. On that account, many people walked to work. So on that account here introduces a separate sentence with a connection to the first sentence. So the first sentence was the reason why the second bit happened. And now for conjunctive adverbs of restating. We often use words such as in other words, meaning I'm going to explain the same thing as before, often to make it simpler. Perhaps someone didn't understand the first time. You notice that, so you say, in other words, we'll do this. Advanced ways of restating include to put it another way. To put it another way is similar to in other words, but less formal. I spent too much money shopping. To put it another way, I'm broke. In essence, restates the key issue behind an idea. I bought fruit and vegetables. In essence, I only bought healthy food. So the main idea was I bought healthy food. I'm kind of summarising the details here. And in simpler terms means to restate something more simply. The supermarket is full of produce sources from sustainable and ethical environments. In simpler terms, it neither exploits farmers nor the environment. I'm trying to make it more simple for my listener.